Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Friday, August 7th, 2026 edition of Douglas Now Live. I'm Robert Preston Jr., live in the DouglasNow.com studios on West Walker Street. A couple of things I want to get to, primarily do a sports update, then a little bit of a discussion about a major issue that is shaping the current political landscape and will be a major factor in the upcoming election cycle and in future elections as well. So have a little bit of fun with that one, and something that's kind of been on my mind a little bit, and I tend to have some pretty strong thoughts about this particular topic. But first of all, before we get into that, I enjoy beginning each show with a sports update when sports are in season, and we have several sports going on right now. We're going to, as we get more into the school year, we're going to have more. We'll get some cross country going here before long. And then in the next couple of months, the swim season will start as well. So it's going to be a busy time here over the next few months. But CCA Patriots improved, Lady Patriots, the CCA Lady Patriots improved to 2-0 on the season today with a 9-3 win over Fullerton Academy. I had mentioned when we met last on Wednesday, I believe it was, that today's game would be at home. That is not exactly the truth. In fact, it's not the truth at all. They're playing a tournament up in Cordele. So it did not show that they were playing at Fullerton. And then the rest of the games this weekend were not showing that they were playing at the home stadiums or the home fields of the teams they were playing. So I assumed that those would be here in Douglas, but they're not. They're actually being played a few miles up I-75 in Cordele. But the Lady Patriots won 9-3 today. We'll get a story up with a few more stats than what we're going to go over right now. Brylan Waldron led the way, 3 for 4 with a run and 2 RBIs. Maddie Lewis had two hits. She was 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. Peyton Harper was 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored. And Arabelle Roberts also had 2 hits, a run scored, and an RBI. The Lady Patriots scored 2 in the first, 2 in the second, 1 in the fourth, and 4 in the fifth. Fullerton added 1. They got on the board first in the first inning with 1 run, and then scored 2 in the top of the third. But the Lady Patriots really didn't have a whole lot of trouble. Again, not as big a margin as the first game of the season. They won 23-0 over Tift Area, but still a solid win. Shanley Meeks, a newcomer this year, got the win. She threw 4 innings, gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, all 3 of which were earned, struck out 6 and walked 1. Peyton Harper finished things out with 3 innings of work. She was perfect, no hits, no runs, no walks. She struck out 2. So the Lady Patriots 2-0 on the season. Again, 2-time defending state champion. Certainly they have to be one of the favorites to go all the way this year. They did lose several players from last year's team, but they have replaced those with some really talented players. They had a solid nucleus last year coming back. So again, we're not ready to crown them yet. I mean, I think it was pretty obvious this spring that the baseball team, CCA's baseball team, was going to really have I don't want to say easy, but they were certainly very much the favorites, and it would have taken something substantial to knock them off and to keep them from winning a state title. I'm not going to go so far as to, announce a coronation here for the Lady Patriots, but they're a really good softball team. They've been good for the last several years, and they're able to reload the players that they lost from last year, and they're off to a really good start this year. So once again, expect them to have a deep playoff run and to be in the mix when October gets here. We also have some football going on right now. Coffee Trojans playing the preseason scrimmage against the Fitzgerald Purple Hurricanes at Dan A. Jardine Stadium right now. I do not have a score update for you, but I know that Tommy Stanley has scored 2 touchdowns here in the first quarter for the Trojans. Now, the way they do this, I don't know how the format is this year, but in the past, the format was in the first quarter to let the ninth graders and the JV players get some reps in, let them play. Then when the first quarter ended, send the starters out, reset the the score 0-0 for the second, third, and fourth quarters. So it seems like I've gotten a couple of updates from the stadium. It seems like they're doing that again this year. But Tommy Stanley, a couple touchdowns already. The first quarter should be coming to an end soon. They're actually able to start the game on time despite the weather that came in. So what they'll do is they'll have a break next week. They will not be playing, and then they will come back and begin the season at the Corky Kell Classic. They're going to play Parkview up at Georgia State Stadium in Atlanta. So going to be on the road for the first game of the year against a very, very tough opponent. So CCA Patriots will also be getting their football season underway soon. They had an intra-squad scrimmage last night. So they got on the field and got to play under the lights. They've been practicing under the lights, but they finally got to play under the lights a little bit for the first time. Again, very, very much a controlled environment, but still it was good for them to get out and practice in their uniforms, on their field. That area is really turning into a pretty neat little stadium. Now they've got the permanent lighting. They've got, the bleachers out there, and they've got some seating. It's turning into a pretty neat little facility that they've got out there on 158 West. So again, we'll be covering both teams this year as we get into the regular season. One more thing I want to mention sports-wise. Anthony Paulk here, 2024 graduate of Coffee High School, a key component of the 2023 state championship football team. He is a redshirt sophomore at Charleston Southern. He was one of 6 Buccaneers to receive preseason all-conference honors. Charleston Southern also has a couple of offensive players, and then in addition to Paulk, 3 other defensive players who made the preseason all-conference team. Last season, he was named, Anthony was named Defensive Player of the Year for the OVC Big South Conference. He finished the season with 33 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 interception, 2 forced fumbles, 6 pass breakups, 2 block punts over 12 games. They opened their season on August the 27th against Lindenwood. Now, what's pretty cool here is a week later, in Game 2, Charleston Southern travels to Georgia Southern to play the Eagles in Statesboro. In that game, we could potentially have 3 former Trojans on the field at the same time. Paulk's teammate at Charleston Southern is Jaden Hancock, who had a phenomenal year last year. He's a fellow defensive back. Jaden's a really good player, came in as a freshman and made an immediate impact. So he's going to be back back in the secondary again. But across the line of scrimmage, on the offensive side of the ball for Georgia Southern, will be, hopefully, Tyrese Woogett. Now, if you followed what we did last year with our college football players, Woogett was at Georgia Military and absolutely obliterated the NJCAA ranks. He was one of the top players, top running backs in all statistical categories, absolutely lit up the NJCAA, had a phenomenal season, scored a bunch of touchdowns, well over 1,000 yards rushing, was a pretty good receiver out of the backfield as well. You knew Woogett was not going to stay at Georgia Military for very long. The Georgia Southern Eagles swooped in and snatched him up. He left at the end of the fall semester and went to Statesboro, and he enrolled at Georgia Southern, made Dean's List with a 3.5 GPA during the spring semester. Now, haven't seen a depth chart, don't know what the plans are for Woogett in Georgia Southern's game plan, but I don't think you can count him out. He's just too good. He's wherever you've put him, returning kicks, returning punts, catching, running the ball, whatever. Woogett has excelled at every level that he's played, and it's no doubt if they give him an opportunity at Georgia Southern, he's going to have an opportunity there as well. So it'd be kind of neat if you've got Woogett in the backfield, and then you've got Hancock and Paulk trying to bring him down. It'll be like the old days out here in practice at Jardine Stadium. So we hope that we can fall into the good graces of the Georgia Southern football program, and they allow us on the field to take some pictures of that. That's going to be a neat time to have those 3 former teammates on the field at the same time in the college ranks. So yeah, looking for some big things out of out of Anthony, and also Jaden. I mean, Jaden had a phenomenal year last year. He had a really good year as well. So all three of these players have done really well, and we've got several other players who also had good seasons last year. We're going to be following them, and then the others that we have who will be playing as well. So excited about the football season. It's going to be neat, and we hope that we're able to get to several of these Georgia Southern games and cover Wiggett. I have yet to see him play in college, and I hope that I get the opportunity again. I hope that he stays healthy. He's been remarkably durable. He carried the ball a lot his senior year of high school, a lot. In fact, he probably would have broken the single season rushing record that Fred Brown set the year before had he not missed basically 2 games with a minor knee injury. If he had been able to play those 2 games, there's almost zero doubt that he would be the single season rushing leader for the Coffee Trojans. But he carried the ball a bunch of times, and he's not a big dude. He's gotten bigger since he's been in college. 5'10", 5'11", 190 now, so he's pretty thick, but he's been extremely durable the whole time. So again, he stays healthy, and they give him an opportunity. He's going to excel. He's going to excel. So we hope that he can step in and make an immediate impact. So a lot of good things are going to happen this year on the football field. So, and remember, keep in mind, we've talked about this. I was having a conversation with my brother today, and he had forgotten about this. In the high school ranks, the GHSA, the playoff seeding, who stays at home, who travels, it's going to be a lot different this year. Every single game counts, not just the region games. This is the GHSA is moving to a power ranking system to determine playoff seeding and who travels and what have you. So in the past, top 4 seeds out of a region automatically made the playoffs. That is not necessarily the case this year. And also, if you were a 3 or a 4 seed, you traveled. Not necessarily the case. It's going to be based on overall rankings. So teams that finish in the 3rd and 4th spots, and maybe even 5th and 6th spots of very tough regions, are going to be rewarded, whereas teams that might finish, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in a weaker region may find themselves on the outside looking in. So that 4th spot of the playoffs, of the region rankings, is not a guaranteed playoff spot anymore. By the same token, finishing 5th or 6th in a tough region does not necessarily mean you're not going to make the playoffs. It will all depend on the final rankings, and I believe we do a 32-team tournament for the playoffs. So, all you have to do is be inside the top 32, and you're going to make the playoffs. And then, who travels will be determined by the higher, from the lower seeds. So, you're going to have to keep that in mind, and remember that we'll be talking about that quite a bit as we get through the season, because these first 5 games of the year used to not count toward your playoff seedings, but now they will. All right, you're going to be rewarded. You could potentially be rewarded more for losing to a good team than you could be for beating a bad team. So it's all based on math and algorithms and logarithms and all the other kinds of rhythms that there are. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. There going to be some shakeups. And one thing that happens, in the past, if you had a game canceled because of weather, and we've had that happen many times in the past, as our weather has gotten more volatile the earlier in the season that we start, we used to just scratch those non-region games and not make them up. That's not going to be the case anymore. You're going to have to play those games. If a hurricane or something comes through, as has happened, or just some really bad weather there in weeks 2, 3, or 4, used to, if a game had to be canceled, you wouldn't play it. Now you're going to have to play it because it could go a long way in determining the final playoff standing. So that's something we need to keep our eyes on as we move through the season. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk about one I consider to be a very dangerous, destructive, and ominous issue that is going to shape the upcoming election cycle and future election cycles as well. We'll be back in just a second. When someone is injured in an accident, they need 3 things: answers, a plan, and a legal team they can trust. That's what you get at the law office of Bruce Edwards in Douglas. along with a healthy dose of old school toughness and modern strategy to boot. We are here to help. Give us a call and let us work for you. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. Welcome back. Robert Preston Jr. here, live on DouglasNow.com. Trying to get a score from the stadium. We're getting near the end of the first quarter, and yes, the JV is playing in the first quarter. We picked up a safety, so we've scored at least 2 touchdowns and got a safety. So the JV firmly in control of the game at Jardine Stadium in the first quarter. If we get a score and we're able to work it in here, we will. I want to briefly mention, and I say briefly because this warrants a much longer discussion that we will probably get into as we get closer to election time. But one of the big topics that is framing the debate, particularly the debate on the left, that is actually reshaping the Democratic Party, is socialism. And no matter what you want to call it, there are parts of the Democratic Party that go all the way into hardcore communism. If you want to call it socialism, democratic socialism, it doesn't matter. It all means the same thing. And let me say this. Now, some of you may disagree with me on this, but I think socialism is one of those things that we should put a stop to. If you're a socialist, I think you should be prohibited for running for office in the United States. I think it's that serious. I think it's that much of a threat. For the most part, I go with the will of the people. You vote, whoever wins, wins. You go in that direction. But socialism is such a universal failure. It is such a universal force of destruction and oppression that somebody somewhere at whatever level of government should say, no, you do not have a place. Socialism does not have a place in our political environment. And I absolutely firmly believe that. It doesn't work. It's not going to work, no matter how you dress it up, no matter how you frame it, no matter how you juxtapose it against the perceived injustices that you see happening right now. It's not a better option. It's not a viable option, and it's not going to work. It has never worked, and it never will work. You can wrap it up in a new box. You can put a new bow on it and change the location, put it in the United States, call it democratic socialism. Oh, it's going to be different this time. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's not going to work here. It's never worked anywhere. It's not going to. So many on the left have embraced socialism. There's a little bit of a war going on in the Democratic Party. You saw it up with this week's elections in Michigan as well. You saw a socialist defeat a more centrist Democrat, someone who was more of a mainstream candidate, which, if you know much about the demographics of Michigan, that should come as no surprise. All right. But if you go to Michigan and look at it by and large, I will simply say I would not want to live in Michigan. I wouldn't want to live in Michigan for a lot of reasons. All right. But not the least of which is because of the way that state is going culturally and politically. The problem that we have here is that people don't remember history. Now, I'm not in the education system anymore. I don't really associate with people who are teaching high school history or who are teaching college history, college civics, things like that. So I'm not 100% sure what is being taught at that level. Whatever is being taught, the message is not making it. The correct message is not being accepted by the students. Okay. Maybe it's because people don't remember. If you're around 25 or so years old, all right, you don't remember the Soviet Union, all right? You don't remember the Iron Curtain. You don't remember the bleakness, um, the blandness, the lack of creativity, the drabness. You know, I always pictured um, Russia as I was growing up, Soviet Union, as just a very dark and boring place because the government controlled everything. You didn't have movies, you didn't have television, not in the sense that we think of it. You really didn't have a system or a culture of the arts, all right? Because what's the biggest threat to the establishment? What's the biggest threat to the government? It's musicians, it's writers, it's journalists, authors, novelists, playwrights. Think of the political messages that we see through works of art, whether you agree with them or not. There's something that I heard somebody say one time, and I say this kind of, you know, with a little bit of a you know, tongue in cheek, that you have to protect the nerds, right? You have to protect the nerds, and socialism / communism does not do that. Okay, in every country, in every society that has been led by an individual or a party that embraces communism or socialism, there has been no outlet for human expression. None whatsoever. Whether it's in, you know, when I say arts, I mean drawing, painting, down to mute movies, magazines, newspapers, what have you. All right. In fact, those are the people who are often targeted the first and often silenced the first. All right. Now, if you think that wouldn't happen here in the United States, it absolutely would. Because no matter how you dress it up, the philosophy is the same, the goals are the same, the end result is the same, and the methods that those in power use to achieve those outcomes are the same, which is oppression, violence, suppression, all of that. All right. It's not going to be different here in the United States. Not at all. It will be exactly the same. So, and this is, yeah, I've got a history degree. I do not have a journalism degree. I have a minor in journalism. Okay. I have a minor in journalism, but I have a major in history. And I consider myself a bit of an amateur historian, not particularly well versed in any one area, but there are a lot of different areas that interest me. And I like to consider myself, or think of myself as being somewhat familiar with the past. And we have to remember what has come before us. Okay. Now, one of my favorite, or probably it is my favorite Old Testament book of the Bible is the book of Ecclesiastes. And what is one thing, if you're familiar with that book, what is very often repeated in there? There is nothing new under the sun. There is nothing new under the sun. Human nature remains the same. It doesn't matter if you go back to the book of Genesis from the beginning of time to where we are now. We do the same things to each other now that we did back then. Technology and the modern advances that we have actually allow us to do more damage in a quicker amount of time, but we do the same things to each other now that we used to do. Okay? There never really was any good old days. All right? We've always been mean, evil, and nasty to each other, and we're still mean, evil, and nasty to each other. And one of the meanest, most evil, and nastiest systems of government and systems of politics there has ever been is socialism. All right? And we are seeing far too many people on the left, far too many mainstream Democrats going into that direction because they think it will be different this time. It will absolutely not. One of the things, you kind of think about it like this. Capitalism works from the bottom up. It's a more organic system. and it starts at the bottom, and as it moves up, it liberates people and makes things better for people. Communism works and socialism works in exactly the opposite. It is coerced, it is forced, it starts at the top and is driven down through the population, and in the process, it oppresses those beneath them. All right. It does not create anything. It does not make anything. It does not liberate anyone. It does not make any significant, meaningful contributions. All right. It is simply a system of control and oppression. The only people who benefit are those at the very, very top. And you might say, well, in the United States, the rich get richer, the poor get poor. Our system is catered towards those at the very top, and they're the only ones who are benefiting. I understand what you're saying, and that's the way that it looks, but that's not the way that it is. All right. We enjoy a level of freedom, both economic and personal freedom, that you do not have in communism. I think to some degree, people, as we look to the government to fix our problems, we are too quick to surrender freedoms and surrender autonomy if we think we can get something from the government. All right. That's not going to work. It has never worked, and it never will work. So this system doesn't solve any problems. It only creates more. And it absolutely terrifies me, and it mortifies me that there are people who think it is a viable option for our country. The Democrats have to sort this out. They're not doing a very good job of it. Certainly the Republicans have made themselves very easy targets, because Republicans, particularly Republican lawmakers, have capitulated so much of the influence that they have to the executive branch. And the executive branch, contrary to what many people think, has not solved very many problems over the last year and a half. They just have not delivered on the promises that they made on the campaign trail. It hasn't gone. I would not consider the first year and a half or so of President Trump's second term as a success. I would not. Now, I think there's time for it to be successful, but some things have to change. All right, some things have to change, and you can only blame President Biden for so long before you're going to have to own the problems. And there's a discussion I would like to have around how the Trump organization has enriched itself over the last year and a half. And when you hear President Trump stand up in front of people and say, well, the economy's doing fine, it's the greatest economy, it's the best economy we've ever had, and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course he thinks it is. The wealth of his organization, and I'm talking about his companies, his holdings, not necessarily his own personal net worth, but that of those who are affiliated with him, has increased in the billions. Okay? My net worth has not gone up that much. I'm not having to work less. I'm continuing to cut things from my family budget because it gets tighter and tighter each and every month. It just does. So I am not prospering in this current economy, but yet the president and those around him are. So of course he's going to say that things are great when they're not. Okay? But the answer is not socialism. The answer is absolutely 100% not socialism. It is not government control. In fact, for those of you who watched our discussion on Wednesday, it is the exact opposite. The government needs to get out of the way. If we want the economy to improve, if we want the standard of living to improve, if we want our lives to get better, the government needs to get out of the way and let capitalism work. Let it start at the bottom and flow upwards. That's what happens. That's absolutely what happens. People need the freedom to grow the economy. And you can't do it when the government is in the way. We're seeing that right now. Housing shortage. It's too hard to build houses. It's too expensive to build houses. Food shortage, or not a food shortage, but grocery prices are high. Do you know what farmers have to spend and the amount of extra work that they have to do to grow crops in the United States, as opposed to the crops that we import from outside of the United States? I'm not saying you should do away with all government regulations, but we are at a competitive disadvantage in many cases with what we do and we produce here compared to what people do in other countries. That's why it's a lot of times cheaper to import crops, to import goods, than it is to make them here, because those entrepreneurs in other countries do not have to deal with the same regulations, the same red tape, and the same costs that we have to. Okay, government needs to get out of the way. We don't need more government. We need less government, and let the economy grow and expand. That is absolutely what we need. When I think about the direction the Democratic Party's going, we're talking about the same things we've talked about for a gazillion years. All right. The modern Democratic Party has not done a very good job of solving problems. The socialist wing of the party will do an even worse job. The problems that we have are not going to go away with more government intervention, with more laws, with more rules. If you certainly do not want the government to seize the means of production, and there are several high-ranking Democratic operatives who think that that is okay, that that's what they want. It's not going to work. Never has, and it never will. Again, it's one of those things that I wish that somebody would say, we're not going to allow you into the political system. If you're a socialist, go away. There are plenty of socialist countries. Go there. See how you like it. I guarantee you won't. And if socialism spreads through the United States, we're not going to like it here either. Now, you might be saying, aren't you being a little bit alarmist? I know it's not going to happen immediately, but it is happening. If you would have told me that we would have elected a hardcore socialist as mayor of New York City, I would have said you're crazy, and it's happened. Now, what I also hope happens is that we see through New York's experience, and there are others as well, there are other cities similarly run, that it's not going well. And when it doesn't go well, what you're going to hear out of leadership is, well, we haven't gone far enough. We don't have enough government. We need to continue to move farther and farther left. And then we will finally hit that sweet spot and we'll fix the problems as they stand. And that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen at all. And I'm afraid that by the time folks realize that it's going to be too late. So it just terrifies me to death. And I do, in this regard, I am pulling for the Democratic Party to figure this out and move away from the direction that it's going. All right. We've got to have some common ground. And conservatives and socialists are not going to have very much common ground at all. And it's going to make things very, very difficult. But if we embrace socialism and even so much as tolerate it, it's going to cause a lot of problems. And again, for those of you who are on the left, for those of you who vote Democratic, I would urge you to look at this long and hard. And you're going to have to make some tough decisions. But the last thing you want to do is to put anyone with socialist leanings in power, because it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for you. It's not going to work out for any of us. Too many times, by the time we realize it, it's too late. This is one of those junctures where we need to follow Barney Fife's old axiom and just nip it in the bud. Stop it before it grows anymore. It's a cancer. It's dangerous. It's destructive. It's never worked. It never will work. Not here, not anywhere else. Let's take a break. We'll come back and take a look at our tower cam. We're going to have a little bit of daylight. Just checking outside the window here. We're going to have a little bit of daylight to see what's happening outside the studio. We'll be right back. A car accident can have serious consequences far beyond the initial crash. Your life and the lives of your loved ones can be turned upside down. Missed work, lost wages, totaled vehicles, and insurance companies that don't want to help. You need a law firm that will fight for you. You've come to the right place. Looking for design, printing, or shipping solutions? Stop by PostNet in Douglas or Waycross today. From business cards to signs and all small business and personal print projects in between, we've got your back with our full-service printing capabilities. We offer custom packing and shipping options through UPS, FedEx, and the U.S. Postal Service, so you can always choose what works best for you. Let's take a look at our tower cam. We got a little bit of daylight left. Again, over here in the corner by the DN symbol. One of these days we're going to see a deer out here. I would love to put more cameras outside so that we could get a better look of what goes on. We have actually a pretty diverse array of wildlife that moves in and out of the property here and through the parking lot. But got a little bit of a shower. I guess maybe about 6:30 so it started raining. I know outside the studio it's still wet. You can see the clouds here. It's kind of cleared up a little bit, and hopefully we won't have any more rain the rest of the night. But that is not the case for the rest of the weekend. We got a 60% chance of rain tomorrow, 50% on Sunday, 40% on Monday, and then a slight chance through each day through the rest of the week as well. Temperatures are going to be in the low 90s. Tomorrow will be the coolest day of the next week with a high of about 88, but there's going to be a lot of rain. So even though it's cooler, you won't be able to get outside and do quite as much and enjoy the little bit of cooler weather that we're going to have. But yeah, it's it's hard to believe we were in the drought that we were in just a few months ago. Now there is ample precipitation, and we're going to get some more. So hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Trying to get a score from Jardine Stadium. We'll try to bring you a little bit of information later as we get farther into the game. Stay tuned tonight. Of course, it's our goal each and every week of the football season to bring you game wrap-ups on Friday night. It might be late. It might not be right at the time the game ends, but we're going to endeavor to get you game wrap-ups from Coffee High School and CCA football. Both of those wrap-ups on Friday nights as quickly as we can. A little bit more relaxed because of the preseason scrimmage, and there's not really a winner or loser, but still it's a good chance to get out and kind of get into that swing of things and knock the dust off. And once again, remember how difficult it is to get these games written up and get everything out there on the same day. So that's always our goal. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll get you some information about the Trojan game here before too terribly long. And everybody try to stay dry. Be careful. If you're out traveling in the rain, give yourself a few more minutes to get there. Don't drive too fast. Speed is dangerous. Speed mixed with water is even more dangerous. So everybody be careful. I don't want to go out taking pictures of any wrecks this weekend. Y'all be safe. We'll see you next time.